All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're tackling the world of online video.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, we've got this report, Why We Watch 2.0. It came out in 2024 and digs into why we pick some videos over others and what makes them so captivating. I'm fascinated by the psychology and neuroscience behind it, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how much the landscape has changed, even in just the past couple of years. Viewers are way more in control these days. It's not just sitting back and watching whatever's on. They're really shaping their own experience.
It's true. And it seems like they're driven by this need for connection. Like they want to feel informed and entertained, of
Yeah.
course, but also like they're part of something.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they're looking for quality, which
Yeah.
is a tricky concept in the world of online video.
Yeah, how do you even define quality when you're talking about something as massive and diverse as YouTube, right?
It's a great question. And the report actually addresses that head on. Like they acknowledge the quality is going to be subjective. But what's really interesting is that even with all the different types of content and individual preferences out there, there are some common threads that emerge.
Oh, okay. I'm hooked already. What are these common threads?
Well, you might be surprised to hear this, but it's not all about those flashy visuals and big production value anymore. In fact, less than 1% of viewers prioritize visuals as their top factor for choosing what to watch.
Wait, less than 1%. Really? I guess the days of just being blown away by special effects are kind of over.
It seems that way. Emotional connection, that's becoming the big thing. There was this study of 1,000 video viewers in Italy, and it clearly showed that emotional resonance is now the dominant factor influencing their choices. It seems like we crave connection in every aspect of our lives, and that includes the content we consume online.
Totally. We're bombarded with so much information all the time that it's the stuff that truly makes us feel something that sticks.
Right. Think about it. What kind of video are you more likely to remember a week later? One packed with explosions or one that made you laugh or taught you something new and exciting?
Definitely the one that triggered some sort of emotion in me.
Exactly. So we're moving beyond the superficial stuff. It's more about a genuine connection with the content and the person creating it.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about trust? How does that factor into this new world of online video?
Trust is huge, especially on platforms like YouTube where, let's face it, anyone with a camera can become a content creator. And the report found something pretty surprising. You ready for this?
Hit me with it.
YouTube actually scored higher in trustworthiness compared to social media, streaming services, and even traditional broadcast media.
Hold on. Are you saying people trust those YouTube personalities more than the nightly news? That's kind of wild.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it reflects a larger trend, especially among younger viewers. They're turning away from traditional sources of information and embracing that unfiltered direct connection they get with creators on YouTube. It's like they see it as more authentic, less driven by corporate interests.
It's like they're getting the news from a friend rather than some big, faceless organization.
Exactly. It's all about building relationships built on shared values and understanding. And get this, the report goes on to talk about this thing called the IKEA effect.
The IKEA effect. Wait, like the furniture store?
Yep, the same one. You know how you tend to value something more when you've put effort into building it yourself?
Yeah.
Like, maybe a piece of IKEA furniture.
Uh-huh. Yeah, or maybe a homemade meal.
Exactly. Well, it turns out the same thing applies to online video. The report talks about this experiment where they had people create brand new YouTube accounts, starting from scratch. At first, their satisfaction was pretty low. Can you imagine having your carefully curated feed just ripped away?
Oh, that would be a nightmare.
Right. But as they started building up their new accounts, personalizing their feeds, discovering new creators, their positivity actually skyrocketed.
It's like they were creating their own little corner of YouTube. All that effort made them more attached to the whole experience, huh?
Precisely. And here's the kicker. This has massive implications for advertisers. During this experiment, they found that people's receptiveness to ads actually tripled.
Wait, so the more viewers are invested in curating their own YouTube world, the more open they are to advertising? That's crazy.
It is. But there's a catch. The ads have to be relevant, feel authentic to the platform, and ideally support creators they already love. It's a win-win. Viewers get to enjoy content from the creators they like, and advertisers get to connect with a super engaged audience.
Wow, this is really fascinating. So we've got this shift towards emotional connection, the importance of trust, and now this power of co-creation between viewers and creators. But the report doesn't stop there, right? It actually dives into the science behind it all with this brain imaging study.
Absolutely. They use this technique called steady-state topography, which is basically a way to measure brain activity in real time as people watch videos.
Hold on, brain imaging. Can you maybe break that down a little for those of us who aren't, neuroscientists?
Sure. It's a non-invasive way to look at what's happening in the brain using sensors placed on the scalp. It's like an EEG, but it lets researchers see how brain activity changes as people do different tasks. In this case, they were looking at how viewers' brains reacted to different types of YouTube content.
So they basically hooked people up to these brain scanners and had them watch YouTube. Okay, what did they find? What was going on in those brains?
Well, the results were really amazing. When viewers watched content from creators they felt a strong connection with, their emotional response was much stronger. But it wasn't just any creator that triggered this. It was specifically those who were seen as authentic, those who felt genuine and relatable.
So it's not just about being entertaining or informative. Viewers are looking for something more, like a real connection with the person behind the content.
Exactly, and they actually measured this emotional response. Brain activity in the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that processes emotions, showed a whopping 30% increase when people watched content from those authentic creators.
30%, that's huge. Sounds like authenticity isn't just some buzzword. It's a real, measurable thing that's actually lighting up our brains.
It is. And they also measured other things like memory encoding and personal relevance. They found that content from authentic creators was much more likely to be encoded into memory, which means viewers were more likely to remember it later.
So it's those genuine, relatable moments that really stick with us. Did they measure anything beyond just the emotional response, though, like how engaged viewers were or whether it influenced their actions in any way?
That's a great question. This study was really focused on the neuroscience of the emotional connection, so they didn't delve into those behavioral aspects. However, there's tons of research looking at how these deeper connections can translate into things like brand loyalty and even social activism.
Wow, this is all so fascinating. Before we move on to what this means for viewers and creators, let's quickly summarize the key takeaways so far.
Sure. So far, we've seen that how people are watching online video has completely changed. It's not just about passive viewing anymore. It's about actively co-creating the experience and seeking out content that aligns with their values and interests.
And quality isn't about high-budget production anymore. It's all about those genuine connections, building trust and creating content that really makes viewers feel something.
Absolutely. And this shift towards emotional connection isn't just some theory. It's supported by hard science. Those brain imaging studies show how powerfully our brains react to authentic content, especially from creators who seem genuine and relatable.
All of this raises some big questions about the future of online video. What does it mean for those trying to create it? What about marketers? And most importantly, what does it mean for us, the viewers? We'll explore all of that in the next part of our deep dive.
So we were just talking about how those brain imaging studies show just how powerful the connection can be between viewers and authentic creators. Like our brains are wired to look for those real connections.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But it makes me wonder about the bigger picture. I mean, if these trends are happening on YouTube, does that mean emotional connection is becoming like the driving force in all our interactions, not just online?
That's a great question. It's something researchers are still exploring. But there's definitely some evidence to suggest that this desire for deeper connections is happening everywhere, not just online. Like, think about podcasts.
Oh yeah, podcasts. They've totally exploded in the last few years. Everyone I know seems to have their favorites. What is it about them that people find so engaging?
Well, it's the format, right? Podcasts are all about those intimate conversations, those authentic voices, often about very specific niche topics that resonate with certain audiences. It's like you're having a conversation with a friend, someone who gets you and shares your interests.
I see what you mean. It's not just about entertainment either. This need for authenticity and connection, it's showing up in the business world too.
Oh, absolutely. Businesses are realizing they can't just rely on slick marketing and fancy products anymore. They have to build real relationships with their customers, understand their needs, and create experiences that go beyond the superficial.
So it's like the same things that make YouTubers successful are becoming the key to success in all areas of life.
Seems that way. Authenticity, being able to connect with others on a personal level, these are becoming the defining traits of success, whether you're a YouTuber or a CEO or just, navigating your everyday life.
You're making me rethink my whole approach to everything. Like, for so long, we've been told to focus on logic, data, and efficiency. And yeah, those are important, but it's clear that's not the whole picture.
You got it. We're emotional beings.
Right.
We crave stories, connection, experiences that make us feel something.
Mm.
And when we ignore that, when we try to live solely on logic and data, we're missing out on a huge part of what makes us human.
It's like we're finally realizing that our emotions aren't a weakness. They're actually what make us human. They drive us to create, connect, build relationships.
Exactly. And if we can tap into that, if we can learn to connect with each other on that deeper level, imagine what we could accomplish. We could create a world where businesses are more focused on people, where online interactions are more meaningful, where our relationships are stronger and more fulfilling.
It's an inspiring vision. So, how can we, the viewers, help foster those connections? What can we do to make sure we're not just passively consuming, but actively engaging with the content and with the creators?
That's a great question. The first step is awareness. We need to be more mindful about what we're consuming and how it affects us. Are we watching and listening to things that uplift us, things that challenge us, things that teach us something new?
It's about being a conscious consumer, not just of what we buy, but of what we watch and listen to as well.
Exactly, because everything we consume, whether it's a YouTube video or a news article or a social media post, it all shapes our perspectives, our beliefs,
Yeah.
and even our emotions. Now that we know how powerful those emotional connections can be, we need to be smart about them.
So what can we do? Any practical tips?
Well, first, be picky about who you follow and what you watch. Choose creators and content that inspire you, make you think, add something to your life. And don't be afraid to engage. Leave comments, share their videos, participate in their communities. The more you interact, the more you're contributing to that cycle of co-creation we were talking about.
And don't be scared to check out those niche communities, even if they seem a little out there at first.
You never know what you might discover, right? There's so much cool stuff out there waiting to be explored, and those smaller niche communities are often where you find the most passionate creators. So what about the creators themselves? How can they use this understanding of emotional connection to create content that really resonates?
Yeah, what's their secret sauce?
Well, if you want to make a real impact, you need to ditch those tired, old formulas and tricks and really tap into that emotional core. Build trust with your audience and be part of the conversation.
Authenticity is key. People can spot a fake a mile away. They want the real you, your passion, your quirks, all the things that make you unique.
That's it. And the report actually suggests that the line between professionally produced content and user-generated content is getting blurry. Both are capable of creating those emotional experiences that viewers are looking for.
It's not about having $1 million budget or the best equipment anymore. It's about telling stories that people connect with, being true to yourself and your vision.
Exactly. And if you can do that, if you can create something that makes people feel something real, that's when the magic happens.
I like that. And it makes me think about how this is all changing the way we think about advertising, too.
Totally. Those YouTubers who've built such strong connections with their audience, sometimes viewers actually choose to watch the ads because they want to support the creators they love. That's a whole new level of engagement.
It's like the whole advertising game is changing. Instead of interrupting, the ads are becoming part of the experience, a way for people to participate and support the creators they care about.
It's a really cool cycle of co-creation and shared value, where viewers, creators, and brands are all working together to create something meaningful. It's a reminder that even in this world of algorithms and data, human connection is still the most powerful thing there is.
We've covered so much today, but I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this whole topic. There's one thing that's been on my mind, though. The report really focuses on YouTube, but do these findings apply to other platforms, too?
Another great question. Researchers are still looking into that, but there's definitely a feeling that this whole shift toward emotional connection and authenticity is happening everywhere.
So it's not just about YouTube, it's about a bigger change in how we're interacting with the world, both online and offline.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this topic so fascinating. It's not just about entertainment or marketing. It's about figuring out what it means to be human in this digital age.
Great point. And this leads us perfectly into the next part of our deep dive, where we'll be exploring authenticity, connection, and what it all means for the future of human interaction. So we've been deep diving into this idea of emotional connection, authenticity, and how it's transforming how we experience content online. But the question that's really sticking with me is this a YouTube thing or is it happening everywhere, like in all parts of our lives?
It's a really important question. And while the report we've been looking at focuses on YouTube, there's a lot of evidence that points to this desire for authentic connection being like a much bigger thing.
Okay, so where else are you seeing this trend popping up?
Well, think about news and information. Traditional media, like TV news, they're at a tough time keeping viewers, especially the younger generations.
Oh, for sure. I hardly ever watch cable news anymore. It just feels, I don't know, kind of impersonal, like it's pushing an agenda sometimes.
Exactly. People feel like traditional media is missing that personal touch, that genuine connection. And that's where things like podcasts and independent online publications come in. They're filling that void.
Podcasts, we talked about them a little earlier, but I'm curious to hear more about how they fit into this whole authenticity and connection thing.
Podcasts are a great example because they really embody what we've been talking about. They have that intimacy, that directness that's often missing from traditional media. It's like listeners feel like they're getting the information straight from the source, from real people who actually care about the topic.
Like you're just chatting with a friend who shares your interests.
Exactly. And that connection goes beyond just the content itself. It extends to the host. They often build these strong relationships with their listeners through social media, events, that kind of thing.
So it's more than just listening. It's like you're becoming part of a community, a group of people who share your interests and passions.
And that community aspect is so powerful. It builds trust, encourages open conversation, creates a space where people can be themselves.
Makes sense. So we've talked about entertainment and information, but what about the business world? Are there examples of how this focus on emotional connection is changing things there too?
Absolutely. We're seeing a huge shift in how companies approach their relationships with customers. That old impersonal way of doing things, the mass marketing, it's being replaced by this focus on personalization, empathy, building those long-term relationships.
It's like businesses are finally realizing that their customers are actual people, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They have emotions and needs and all that.
Right. And when businesses really take the time to understand their customers and connect on a deeper level, it leads to more loyalty, more engagement, and ultimately more success.
It's not about just selling something anymore. It's about creating an experience, building a community, and making people feel valued.
And this shift toward a more human-centered approach is impacting everything. Marketing, advertising, customer service, how products are designed, everything.
It's amazing to see how this idea of emotional connection is influencing so many parts of our lives. It feels like a real change is happening, a change in how we relate to the world around us.
It really does. It makes you think about what the future holds.
Yeah.
If this trend keeps going, what will it mean for how we communicate, build relationships, define success in this increasingly digital world?
Big questions. I don't think anyone has all the answers yet. But one thing's for sure, things like emotional intelligence, empathy, being able to connect with people on a deeper level, those are becoming super important.
Totally agree. For so long, we've been told that logic, efficiency, and data are the most important things. And they are important, but they're not enough on their own. We need to balance those things with a real understanding of human emotion and connection.
It's like we're rediscovering the importance of human connection, the things that have always been essential for building relationships and living a good life.
And that's a pretty hopeful thought, isn't it? In a world that can feel so divided and impersonal, this focus on connection is a reminder that what really matters is our shared humanity. It's what brings us together.
So well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway you hope listeners will remember?
Honestly, it's this. Never underestimate the power of human connection. In a world that's increasingly digital, it's easy to get lost in the noise and feel disconnected from what truly matters.
But as we've seen, whether it's online video, podcasts, even just talking to a friend, that desire for connection is still so strong.
So nurture your relationships. Seek out experiences that make you feel something. And remember that even with all the data and algorithms, it's still the human heart that really makes the world go round.
I love that. It's a great reminder that even with all the technology and changes happening around us, it's those human connections, those moments of shared emotion and understanding that make life worth living.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored this fascinating topic. Until next time, keep searching for those genuine connections, keep the conversations going, and remember, it's all about the feels.